For nearly 100 years, Boeing wasn't just a company. It was a symbol, the absolute peak of human engineering, the gold standard of American power. In the hangars of Seattle, engineers were treated as kings. Safety wasn't a department, it was a religion. It governed every bolt, every wire, every rivet. Back then, there was a saying, "If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going." It was an ironclad pact of trust between a brand and the world. If a plane had the Boeing name, you didn't ask questions, you just flew. But today, that pride has been replaced by a systemic fear. Every Boeing takeoff now comes with a haunting question. Is this aircraft actually safe, or am I stepping into a gamble? This was the turning point. This isn't a story about bad luck. It's not about random mechanical failure. This is a clinical brand autopsy. We are opening up the body of a dying industrial giant. We are searching for the exact moment the heart stopped beating. Because the most dangerous part of a plane isn't a faulty engine. It is a broken leadership. A leadership that forgot that in aviation, there is no room for good enough. But the real story starts in 1997. The rot did not begin on the assembly line. It began in a quiet boardroom during a merger. Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas. On paper, it was a partnership. In reality, it was a cultural hijacking. The accountants took control of the engineers. Harry Stonecipher, the new leader, had a different philosophy. He famously said, "When people say I changed the culture of Boeing, that was the intent." And he did. He fundamentally changed the company's DNA. Boeing stopped beating for innovation, it started beating for Wall Street. The headquarters moved thousands of miles away, from the grease of the factory in Seattle to the skyscrapers of Chicago. Decision makers were now strangers to the machines they built. They were looking at spreadsheets, not blueprints. And then, everything changed. This transition was not a mistake, it was a deliberate business strategy. They traded the lab coat for the suit. They ushered in an era where cost-cutting was the only metric. The mission was no longer to build the best planes, it was to pump the stock price. Management began to view safety protocols as expensive obstacles. Quality checks were seen as annoying delays. The warning signs were ignored. A culture of silence took over the factories. Veteran engineers were forced out. New workers were pressured to meet impossible deadlines. Billions were spent on stock buybacks to please investors, while the factories were starving for resources. Boeing stopped asking, "How can we make it better?" They started asking, "How can we make it cheaper?" The stage was set for a tragedy the world would never forget. Then came the decision that changed aviation forever. In 2011, Airbus announced the A320neo. It was fuel efficient. It was a threat. Boeing panicked. They didn't have time to build a new plane, so they took a shortcut. They modified a 50-year-old design, the 737. They slapped massive, heavy engines onto a 1960s frame. But there was a problem. The engines were too big. They had to be moved forward and up. This changed the center of gravity. Under certain conditions, the nose would pitch up dangerously. It made the aircraft unstable. Instead of fixing the airframe, they used software. They called it MCAS, a system designed to automatically push the nose down. And that's when the crisis began. They chose to not disclose this software to the pilots. They removed it from the manuals. Why? To avoid the costs of simulator training. If the pilots didn't know it was there, Boeing saved millions. It was a calculated gamble with the laws of physics. Then, the unthinkable happened. October 2018, Lion Air 610. The software malfunctioned. It fought the pilot. It drove the plane into the sea. Boeing blamed the pilots. They kept the planes in the air. March 2019, Ethiopian Airlines 302. The exact same failure. 346 innocent lives gone. This was the moment of no return. This was the result of a strategy that valued edge over life. A century of global trust shattered in a single moment of terror. The pact was broken, and the world finally saw what Boeing had become. Now we look at the wreckage in 2026. The autopsy reveals a giant in a death spiral. Boeing is buried under $54 billion of debt. They're selling off assets just to keep the lights on. Federal regulators are now permanent shadows in their plants. Every production line is under a microscope, but the problems keep coming. In 2024, a door plug blew out mid-flight. In 2025, manufacturing defects were found in the 780 wings. The headlines have been relentless. Whistleblower tragedies, quality scandals, CEO resignations, they all confirm one painful truth. You can patch a software bug with a line of code, but you cannot easily repair a hollowed-out culture. Airbus has seized the throne, holding nearly 70% of the narrow-body market. Boeing is no longer competing for leadership, they're fighting for survival. The diagnosis is final. Boeing didn't just fail to fly, it forgot why it was in the air in the first place. It became a warning to the entire corporate world. When you prioritize the shareholders over the passengers, you lose both. Once you lose the trust of the public at 30,000 feet, you may never truly land on your feet again. The era of blind faith is over. Boeing didn't just lose planes, it lost trust. And in aviation, trust is the only thing that keeps you flying.